All right, so I get these. These are called fret wraps by William. Yeah, they're called fret wraps by Groove Gear, and you can find these things. You probably find them on Amazon, all that stuff now. That's probably the quickest way to find it, or you can go to groovegear.com. That's spelled with the Gruv, Groove Gear. And so fret wraps is what it's called. Yep. And so yeah, you ought to be able to find those almost anywhere now. But yeah, Amazon or either the website might be the quickest way to access those. Yep. So let's see here. Bring you guys in a little closer this morning. All right. All right. Good morning to everybody. All is well, man. Andrew, all is well. Y'all know what to do. Sign in. Let me know where you're watching from this morning as we get going. Still warming up. Hello. Mark, I just literally started, so you haven't missed much. Okay, good deal. Airport this morning. Still getting used to this bass. So I got last week, if you guys were here, you know I tuned my bass a little different. So I've been going back and forth all week from the 4 string to this bass, and sometimes I have to make myself remember how I have this bass string, because sometimes it's easy to forget how how the strings are. So it's an E string, E, A, D, G, and B. So it's a little, yeah, it's a little, I'm sorry, I said B, it's C. Sorry, the top string is C. Correction. But yeah, so I'm having to make myself be aware of that when I'm playing, because the natural tendency on this bass, because I've been playing it for so long, is to think that low B is on top and the low E is on top. So I'm having to really make myself remember that while I'm playing. All right, so let's see here. And I'm just kind of playing around to this track. Some of you guys that watch the show, you know this is the theme song for the show. I'm just kind of grooving around with it just a little bit. What's up, big? Anybody else I didn't speak to, good morning to you. Logic. I'm running through my rig, but I'm also running through Logic, and so I just got a few pedals pulled up here in Logic, so I'm not using a lot. This is like I'm running through like a chorus. You can hear it. Turn it up just a little bit. Pull some of this out. So this is with it off. Let's see here. So it's very, like you can see, it's very, very subtle. Yeah, just a little bit of it. So if I make it really dramatic, you can really hear it. So like this. You know what I'm saying? So it's stuff on there, but it's just really subtle. Morning to you, Mr. Cohen. Tiffany, good morning to you. Larry, what's up, man? Good morning to you. Samuel, good morning to you. Yeah, man. Vic says we're blessed. Absolutely. And T, good morning to you. Brandon, good morning to you, man. So I got a few of my private lesson people on here this morning. Let's see here. I had a little delay going. You can hear it subtle in the background there. Let's see here. Something a little different. Find an empty space where I can do this. All right, let me see your comment again. Hey Jermaine, could you do a quick demo of technique for playing harmonics? Mine is not as clear and clean. I mean, I'm playing pretty much over, like right over the top of the fret. I'm not in the middle. I'm right over the top of the fret. You know, so it's a very, very light touch that I'm doing. Good morning, Corey. It's a very light touch that I'm doing. I'm right over the top of the fret. Very light touch, barely mashing it down. If I can turn my bass around, I don't know how well you can see this, so notice my finger is just kind of hovering. fingers are just kind of hovering. Once I locate where those harmonics are, and then another thing it might have to do with the how you have your bass set. Um, if it's too low end heavy and you're not letting any of the mids get through, that might have something to do with the tone that you're getting when it comes to harmonics. The harmonics seem to cut through a little more with a little bit more of the mid-range tone, like your mid-range boosted a little bit. I mean, not ridiculously boosted, but do have the mid-range and the highs boosted a little bit more. Like I said, my highs are not all the way up. This is all the way up. It's really but you can still hear them clear with the highs halfway. And so on. Christy, well, let's see here. And thanks for this regular session so that I can ask you questions. I want to ask you that we've started, not that I started, I'm sorry. Something else popped up here. To learn the basics of slap, but I don't feel like I'm really progressing. What should I do? Any practice tips I can apply? It really depends on what you're experiencing as a result of your practicing. It just, the biggest thing, it takes time and just kind of making sure that you're hitting the actual string that you're intending to hit. I notice a lot of times people will thump and they're thumping on a lot of open strings and they're not necessarily isolating the string that they're trying to play, so that affects the sound that you're trying to get. I'm trying to readjust my bass here so you can hear it. So being really clear about what you're trying to hear. And notice, like, sometimes my fingers, my left hand will float over the strings that I don't want to ring. So I don't have a lot of. It's a lot of control, isolation with both my right hand and my left hand. So whether I'm playing an open note, I'm playing, you know, something that's fretted. You know, it's very. I'm sorry for that latency. I'll turn it off. It's very controlled in terms of what I'm trying to do. When I'm thumping and when I'm plucking, it's very controlled. So I'm going down through the string when I'm thumping, and I'm landing on like the next string. Sometimes I'm just landing on the string I'm hitting. I don't even go all the way through the string unless I'm trying to come back up. When I'm doing that, that's kind of when I come up, and I'm using more. That's a whole nother conversation, So I'm using the tip of my finger when I'm doing that. But when I'm kind of just trying to thump, I'm using more of this part of my thumb. All right. And I'm using my pointer finger to pluck. So I'm thumping and then I'm plucking up to get that octave. So that's all I'm doing. And then I'm really paying attention to that, like even as you heard me just now, moving through those chromatic octaves. The left hand is working as well because I'm pressing down those notes that I want to get as I'm hitting them. They're not just there, they're actually pressing down the notes. That way I'm controlling what it is I'm hearing on both my right hand and my left hand, so I'm not getting a lot of unnecessary string noise, fret buzz, or unnecessary ringing, that kind of thing. keeping timing with my right hand. And all that such and what have you. First thing in terms of doing that complicated, well, it's not really complicated, but doing the more intricate type of thumping and plucking is being able to know what the rhythm you're going for is. And then I'm subdividing the beats within that. So if I was thinking of a drum beat in my head or trying to keep the timing, it's almost the best way I can explain it, depending on how you came up. If you came up in somewhat of an urban type school or you were around black kids growing up, one of the things we did young was beat on the desk. And it's like we were notorious for doing stuff like, beating on your desk. So people just have habits of tapping on stuff. So really, you're taking that same type of idea and you're thumping on the bass, but you're not trying to break it or trying to beat on it per se. But it's that same idea. I'm creating a rhythm with my hand. I mean, anybody. If I even think about the what's the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, where you have Matthew McConaughey, where he's beating on his chest and he's keeping the beat and he's singing. It's that idea. You're keeping a beat, you're keeping time, and you're trying to make a rhythm with your hands. It's the same, but you're just doing it a little bit more controlled, and it's a little bit more intentional how you're using your hands when you're doing it here. So if I'm going, if I was beating on this bass trying to keep that beat. So notice I'm going to probably use this part of my hand for my bass, and then I'm going to use something like my knuckles to keep the beat. You know what I'm saying? If I'm doing it with one hand, if I tell everybody to do that right now, wherever you are, like in your car, on your desk or something like that, you could do that, right? So if you took that same motion and switched it from doing it here, but putting it here and go, it's the same motion. The only thing that changes now, so instead of coming down like this, we pluck up. We're doing the same thing. And if you were a master desk beater, the more intricate you got with your beats, it depended on how you practice, how you added to that stuff, and that's what determined it. Now, the thing that changes it up for us being melodic, after we have the rhythm down packed, now we're just moving the notes around. And if we want to start getting a little extra, get sweet with it, we'll start adding more than one finger. So that way we're incorporating rolls. See what I'm doing? I'm just keeping a rhythm, and this other finger, my middle finger, is kind of helping me to do that extra little note that I'm here. So I'm getting those double notes. So that's kind of what I got happening there. So let me see if I can adjust this down a little bit more so you can see my hand. So notice I'm doing all of this with my right hand, and I haven't even incorporated my left hand yet. All my left hand is doing right now is just muting. Even while I'm practicing on my right hand, I can be working on muting with my left hand and making sure nothing is keeping up any noise. I'm not accidentally pressing any notes, so you don't hear this going on. You shouldn't be hearing that if you're not trying to hear that. It should be so controlled that you're hearing exactly what you want to hear. Because I'm already hitting the note. So now if I want that note to ring out, I'll just simply either press it down, or in this case where I'm playing an open E, I just open it up and let it ring. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated when you start trying to go in between strings. That's where you got to really spend the time to kind of really get in between those strings. Of course, that's getting into a little bit more complicated stuff. It's not that complicated. It's a little bit more advanced is a better word for it. All of this stuff comes with time. It comes with practice. It comes with being intentional about what it is what you're trying to do. Thank y'all. So I've seen a couple of comments I'll respond to. All right, so cool. Andrew said, I found the YouTube slap groove you did with your 4-string very helpful and effective. It's my official slap groove. Got you, man. Cool deal. Yeah, I do have a video. Thank you for mentioning that, Andrew. I do have a video here on YouTube where I do kind of break down thumping, like slapping or whatever you want to call it, how to get into it, how to improve it if you've already been doing it, that kind of thing. So yeah, be sure to check that video out. I think it's called How to Improve My Slap Groove or something. Just type in Jermaine Morgan slap lesson and it should come up. Something should come up. All right, so Thumper, good morning to you, man. Mac John said, I have issues gaining total control over my left hand while I'm slapping and trying to slide up and down the fretboard, where a technique left hand really need to know. So hopefully, Mac, I just answered that question for you, like being just really intentional about what you're doing with your left hand. The biggest thing about your left hand is paying attention. I think we start focusing so much on what we're doing with our right that we just kind of forget we have two hands, and this hand is kind of just there. But just being more intentional about what you're doing here. Like I'm aware of the notes that are underneath my hand as well as the ones that I'm pressing down, if that makes any sense. Like, so if I'm pressing down, or let's do it in a flat key that doesn't have, open notes. I don't want to hear that. So I'm aware. I notice the tip of my finger is holding the note, but also the meaty part of my finger can very lightly mute the note if I angle my hand just right. And it's not something that I intentionally do. It's just become a habit of mine, I guess, that I don't even realize that I'm doing it. But I noticed that I'm kind of like my fingers are naturally floating over the other strings. And since they're already there, why not let those fingers do the muting for me? It's not like I'm doing any extra work. It's just these fingers are already resting on these notes. So if I'm not wanting to play these notes, why not let these fingers just do their job and mute the notes that I'm not playing? Since they're already there, they're already resting. But if I got my fingers way out here, it's hard to do that. But if I got my fingers resting, so my fingers are already there on the fretboard. So some of that extra noise that I'm not liking, I can get rid of that just simply by letting the fingers that are already there do the work for me. So that's my simple answer to that. All right, so said it kind of reminds me of Tyrone Brunson. I don't think I know who Tyrone Brunson is, Williams. Uh, Hi, sir. Let me rephrase that. I don't know by name. Hi, sir. How often do you change your strings to get that slap tone harmonics and so on? Um, Probably like once every month and a half, once every 2 months, depending on how much I'm playing. And I don't have, me personally, I don't have a set. And when I really think about it, I don't have a really set time. I'm going to change my strings every single month. I know some people are like that. They change their strings every 2 to 3 weeks and all that. Some of that for me can be kind of wasteful. Because I grew up. I didn't when I was playing, man. We couldn't go and buy a set of strings like that every single week or whatever. Now, I get with an endorsement and that kind of thing. Obviously, I have a little bit more access to strings more often, and I can change my strings more often. But a little poor man trick for you guys. To answer your question, first off, I change my strings probably once every 2 months, or depending on how much I've been playing that bass. Cause like my fourth string over there, it's been a minute since I changed the strings on that bass. And if I haven't really been playing the bass a lot, well, it's good to go. I pick it up and it sounds fine. I go off of the sound of the bass. If I notice that my bass starts really losing clarity and it's real noticeable that it's starting to lose clarity, then I know it's about time for me to change my strings. And it really depends on the type of mode I'm in. Sometimes my strings can start really losing clarity, but I'm actually enjoying the sound. I'm enjoying the tone that I'm getting from the bass. Even though it's not as crisp as it normally is, sometimes I'm liking that slightly dead sound. So it really depends on the kind of mood I'm in, to be honest. But if it sounds like I'm not getting any tone and then my strings sound like this when I'm trying to thump, even though you can kind of hear the high end, I'm like, okay, I don't have any more highs. So the crispiness is gone. Now, the poor man trick that you can do, some of y'all already know about this, you can boil the strings for like 10 to 15 minutes. Take your little cup full of, not cup, sorry, like a little cap full of alcohol, rubbing alcohol, pour it in the strings. And like I'm boiling water, pour it in this. I shouldn't be telling y'all this, but it is what it is. It's poor man trick. So you pour it in there, and you boil the strings. You let them boil for 10, 15 minutes. What that does, that gets all the oil and all the grease and all the stuff that's in the string, it gets it out of the string, especially now with what's going on. People ain't got money to throw around all willy-nilly, not everybody. So that's a good way if you want to prolong the life of your strings for a good, 2 to 3 weeks or whatever. It's not gonna last that long, depending on how you play. But you can get I mean, when you first put them back on there. So what you want to do after you boil them, you want to dry them off, and just kind of hang them there for like a day or so, and then the next morning put them back on your bass. They're gonna sound brand new when you put them back on, but you only have about maybe 2 weeks, good strong 2 weeks before they're done. It depends on how you play. Now, if you're not playing your bass that much and you're playing once every blue moon, it's gonna last for a minute. But realistically speaking, it's gonna be about half the lifespan that you normally have. When you boil those strings, you're gonna get about half the lifespan that you normally have, or probably a little less than half the lifespan that you kind of have normally with your strings. All right, so yeah, somebody else said ammonia. Yep, you can do ammonia. I haven't tried that one. Okay, so let's go back here. T says, how do you practice adding licks, different beats, like 4/4 time signature? Trial and error. I mean, that's a simple answer for that. I don't have a complicated answer for that. Trial and error. Y'all know I'm always talking about, mimicking drummers. If you want to get good at coming up with rhythm combinations and even with coming up with slap techniques and stuff like that, don't always just listen to bass players. Don't do that. There's nothing wrong with listening to bass players, but eventually what you'll do, you start mimicking everybody that you're hearing. And that's nothing wrong with it. We take a little bit and we create our own. But if you really, really want to improve with your rhythmic ideas, listen to drummers. Listen to drummers and listen to how drummers communicate rhythm. Listen to really, really good drummers, how they communicate rhythms, how they communicate beats. Not only drummers, percussionists. Listen to how percussion players play. All of that stuff, all of these rhythmic, because this is what you're trying to do. You're on your bass, you're trying to mimic some type of rhythm, some type of thing that either percussionists or drummers do. So if you want to get really good at understanding time, my time improved so much when I had this stint probably about 10, 12 years ago that I was working out with my good friend David Fingers Haynes. David, I've talked about this multiple times if y'all been around. David is a phenomenal drummer, but he also plays this little pad, this little electronic pad. Some of y'all have seen it like an MPC or something like this, some type of drum pad. But he plays this thing, and my little drumming that I be doing over here don't even scratch the surface. This dude plays this like a real drum kit. Nonetheless, I would go over to his house when he lived here in Atlanta, and we would get together and we would practice different time signatures and just practicing different rhythms. And David would be playing something. We'd start out a groove and we'd be playing in 7, and he'll start soloing in 9, and I'll have to keep the groove in 7 and try to remember it. But he's just all over the place, just playing, never losing the one. Matter of fact, I'm lost. He's giving me the one. It's like, okay, 1, and he's soloing in a whole different time signature. But me listening to him and several other drummers that I'm friends with, like my friend Darius Fant, one of my best friends I grew up with, listening to the way he communicated rhythm, and so many other drummers. I could just start naming. I got so many drummer friends, I could start naming people. But from all of these people that I've listened to over the years, I see how these drummers and percussionists interpret rhythm. And when I listen to the way that they interpret rhythm, it really resonates with me, and it really causes me to think a different way as a bass player, as a overall musician, not just isolated to the bass. And so once I'm able to think a different way, it causes me to come back to this instrument with new ideas, with something completely different. Because if I only listen to bass players, I'm limited to what bass players think of, unless I'm listening to a really great bass player like a Victor Wooten or Marcus Miller, who have mastered the art of the thump. Even in that, I'm still limiting it to what they know. As amazing as they are, there's still other things out there. There's still other players out there. There's still other ideas out there. And the more that you can explore these other ideas by listening to multiple people, the better you become with coming up with rhythm. So that's what I can tell you concerning that. So, excuse me. Let's see here. Let's go back here. I'm losing my place. All right, there we go. William says he's a bass player that came out in the early 80s. Tyrone Brunson. I got to look him up, man. I got to look him up. Thanks so much, Jermaine. I really appreciate you taking out the time to iron out stuff. Have a great time. All right, no problem, man. So, hey, Jermaine, type in Tyrone. Okay, I got you. I'll check him out. God First and Guitars, my dude Steve. All right, so Steven, I won't say your name, Steven. Don't shoot me, man. It's early. Thank you. All right, any new licks coming up? Not right now. Not right away. Not right away. Hey Jermaine, my right hand is not fast as it used to be. How can I get back up to speed? You have to just try. I'm not trial and error, but you just have to keep working that muscle, man. You have to keep working it. And my speed isn't consistent. Believe it or not, my stuff isn't consistent. I could be playing. I could have a weekend here that I really, really dig in, or a month that I really, really dig in, and I get super fast and super clean. And then the next month is like, dude, what just happened? it's it's a thing that you have to consistently work at it. Your speed is gonna fluctuate from time to time. That it's normal. It goes up, it goes down. Sometimes, some days you can come in here, you feel really fluid, you can play through stuff. And other days you come through here and feel like somebody got weights on your fingers and you're not going anywhere. I have it happen to me all the time. So it's a normal thing. You just have to work through it. You have to continue to push yourself. You have to continue to push yourself through it. All right. So Harry says, "Do you use bebop harmony and rhythms in your bassline licks solos?" Of course. Yeah. I mean, I do pull from bebop phrases. Now, have I heavily studied the art of bebop? No, I haven't. But there are things. Oh, no problem, Thumper. There are things that I've listened to over the years because I wanted to understand that language. I wanted to understand the phrasing. So there's some studying that I did in terms of listening to bebop and understanding some of their phrases because it just really resonated with me. And I'm like, I want to know how to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of, you will hear a lot of bebop type phrasing in some of the stuff that I do. And a lot of it comes from, I think, my guitar playing, because when I was learning guitar, I did jazz studies years ago, and don't get it twisted. It wasn't like I was super sweet on guitar years ago. I was doing jazz studies, which means I was trying to learn how to do this stuff on guitar. I didn't automatically know, but I was really, really trying to learn. So, but hearing all of that stuff and hearing the Charlie Parkers and hearing the way that they navigated in and out of chords, I was curious and I wanted to know about how they were doing it, and I wanted to know more about how to do that. So I listened and I listened, and I just kind of, over time, I started getting a piece of it. And what I did is I merged it with the way that I musically speak. So you'll hear some phrases that sound slightly bebop, and then you'll hear some that sound soulful, and I mix the two together, and that's kind of what gives me my sound. So it's never consistent. You will probably, with me, you probably will never hear nothing that's just straight bebop or just straight ahead jazz, because that's not my strength. And it really brings me to my point today. Let me see. There's one more question. Uh, Tiffany said, "Yes, you should sound like a drummer this." Oh, you said I sound like a drummer this morning. Trial and error is the best way to go. Absolutely. So yeah, it brings me to my point. Good ain't good enough. And I know that's good, correct English for my English majors and my English teachers that are on here this morning. But my thought for today is good ain't good enough. So, as most of you know, this is called Grooves and Motivation. I don't just get on here on Tuesday morning and play and just have a good time. There's like actually a point to it. It's grooves and motivation. So you get a little bit of grooving, and a lot of y'all get a bass lesson. But for the most part, it's grooves and it's motivation. So one of the things I want to encourage you on today, I know good ain't good enough don't sound like encouragement at all, but the subtopic, if you will, I want to talk about is focusing, or identifying rather, identifying your, because a lot of the questions that you guys have been asking me kind of have been along those lines. And I think sometimes we so often focus on trying to get to the next thing, get to the next thing, get to the next thing. It's easy to disregard what your strengths are. It's easy to disregard, and you don't even know what your strengths are because you pass by them trying to get to something else. So in doing that, you want to just kind of be mindful. How do I identify my strengths? What are my strengths? Well, your strengths are those things that you naturally do. It's almost like you're gifted. What do you do naturally that you can do just like breathing? It comes naturally to you. For most of us, playing this instrument, playing it, the mechanics, let me be clear, the mechanics of playing this instrument does not come natural for most of us. It does not come natural. Now, hearing it and figuring it out, two different, completely different things. You might figure stuff out and it's like, oh, yeah, I got that. I see what he's doing. But once we get into the more mechanical part of, okay, how do I do this? That part doesn't come as natural. But the strength of it is, I naturally hear bass. I naturally hear, like for me, one of my strengths is creating music. Go figure. But one of my strengths is actually creating music, and I don't mean just picking up a bass or a guitar and playing. I mean, I can literally, by the grace of God, I can literally walk in this room and nothing be going on, and I can create a full song. I can create a full idea and just run with it. Or somebody sing a melody to me, and I can create something around it. Or somebody sing a phrase, or I can hear something and I can literally create a song about almost anything, whether it's writing or whether it's just creating an instrumental. So a strength of mine is being able to hear and create music. I hear music and I know how to create it. Now, these other things up under it, like playing the bass, playing the guitar, playing the drums, playing the piano, being able to sing, are all things that help to support my main strength. My main strength is hearing music. And so the better I get at, like I said on last week, if you guys were here last week, the better I get at communicating what I'm hearing is based on, or how good I get at communicating what I'm hearing is based on how much I practice and polish these skills so that I can clearly communicate what it is I'm hearing. Because sometimes, some of you guys may can attest to this, sometimes your ears outgrow your ability to play. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to figure out, how do I get my ears and my hands to match, to do the same thing? I got to improve on my strength. So I have to, what comes natural for me? Sometimes you're spending a lot of time working and practicing on stuff like, the thumping thing. Some of you guys I want to get good at this. I want to know how to do the thumping. I want to do, okay, nothing wrong with that. Nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But how much time have you spent on the thing that you naturally do? When you're sitting in your car, you're listening to music, you don't have an instrument in your hand. What's the first thing you're doing when you listen? Are you beating on something, playing the drums to the groove? Are you singing the melody? Are you singing the bass line? What's the thing that you do most often that comes most natural to you? What is the thing that you do? And we don't have to limit this conversation to just music, because obviously during this time, during the season that we're in with COVID and all that kind of stuff, everybody's having to reinvent themselves in this season. Almost everybody is having to reinvent themselves in this season. And I would go on them to say that most of us, at least 80 to 90% of people, aren't doing what they love. The job that you're probably headed to this morning, most of you, is not something that you like to do. It's not something that you're naturally good at. It's something that, it's a skill that you learn to pay the bills, but it's not necessarily something that you're naturally good at. And what I'm learning and what I'm coming to find out, you bring more to yourself, or you add more value to yourself and everyone else when you're doing something that's a natural strength for you, something that you naturally do. One of the points that come to mind is people that get a job, and when I go out to eat, or when I go to do anything in terms of purchasing, I'm a stickler for customer service. I love good customer service, and I despise bad customer service. Because my thought is, if you don't want to do this job, why are you in customer service? Why, if you don't like people, why are you talking to people? Why do they have you on the phone? Why do they have you up front? You don't smile, you don't greet people. I almost hate going to a restaurant and I go up to place my order, and I don't get greeted. And I'm not trying to be sound bougie or anything like that, but just a common, I guess it's that southern thing for me, because I'm used to people speaking. I'm used to people saying, hello, how are you? And then let's get into the point. I see all y'all coming, y'all know I'll get back to it. But it's like, I see somebody, I go up to a restaurant, or not a restaurant, I go to like a fast food joint or something like that. Go ahead with your order. What? Go ahead with your order. You already got an attitude. I just got here. Clearly, this person is not operating in their strength. Their strength is not customer service. Their strength is not being sociable, or social rather. Your strength is not being warm and welcoming to people. So when you're operating outside of your strength, you are actually sometimes doing more harm than you are helping. You might get a check at the end of the day for doing your job, but you're not doing it well. Whereas you take a person that's really bubbly, they have a really fun personality. You walk into, I mean, they're very warm. Like you walk into a store, you walk into a restaurant or something like that. They have a big on their face. How can I help you? You know what I'm saying? How are you doing? They go the extra mile. It's almost like the waiter that comes to your table and they just make conversation. They talk to you. They see your kids. They say something about your kids. They comment on something that you're doing, or they suggest stuff to you on the menu. You should try this. I really love this. It's like sometimes they come across as talkative, but at the end of the day, you end up developing a relationship with that person within that 30 to an hour window that you're going to be there. And so that person tends to get a higher tip because their personality was showing a little stronger, or their strength was showing a little stronger, as opposed to somebody who come over there, can I take your order? Is that it? It's like, and you have to call on them every single time to come back over to the table to come, hey, can you fill my drink up? Or can you bring us some more napkins? They're not being really, really attentive. So that's not a strength for them. They're just doing a job. I know it sounds like we're all over the place, but that's one thing I want you to be aware of. If you're always having to remind yourself to do it, if you're always having to make yourself think about it, it's probably not a strength for you. It's probably not a strength for you. One of the things for me when it came to my playing, I would notice as I was growing in my earlier years, I had a couple of people that were in my musical circle that I would always talk to. I had two friends of mine that was guitar players, Chawan Jernigan and James Judah, and these two guys from Mississippi. But anytime I would learn something new on guitar, I would always have to call them. Hey man, check this out. This was before FaceTime or Skype and that stuff. I had to call them. I had put them on speakerphone. Look, man, I just learned this new lick. You need to check this out. And so we'll be there on the phone for hours. You know, we're going back and forth through licks because I couldn't get through a practice session without showing somebody something new that I had learned. So when I made the idea, or when I came up with the idea to start sharing the idea, if you go back to my old videos when I first started posting to YouTube, you notice some of the first videos was me just showing, all right, guys, this is some little lick I came up with. I just wanted to share it. It was a natural thing for me to want to share what I was learning. I didn't force this thing to, like, I didn't, you know what, I need some views on YouTube, so let me start doing bass lessons. It didn't start that way for me. I was posting other things, and I'm like, you know what, this is kind of cool. Let me show this to somebody else. Because up to that point, I was just showing it to the people who were in my network, to the people who were in my circle. But showing and teaching people and sharing stuff with people is something that I can't turn off. Sometimes I get mad at myself because I feel like I'm a motor mouth in terms of sharing information, because if it's good and it's helpful, I can't help but share it with people. That's a strength of mine. The music and everything else I do around that supports what that strength is. And hopefully in all of my talking, you're thinking of yourself and you're thinking of, okay, what's my strength? What's my thing that I sometimes wish I could turn off because I do too much of it? I can't help it. I'm always, some of you guys, y'all, your natural strength, you are givers. You are a natural giver. Some of y'all are natural athletes. Everything you do is kind of based around some type of athletic type thing. It's whatever it is for you, it's based around that. So that's a natural thing for you. Now, how do we take that strength when it comes to music or when it comes to other areas in life? How do we take that strength and capitalize on it? Not necessarily, when I'm saying capitalize, I'm not necessarily talking about making money, although that might be a byproduct of capitalization on whatever strength is. But how do I do more? How do I become more effective with what this strength, whatever this thing I have is? How do I become more effective? You start giving it out. You start doing more of it, even in your practicing. If I have the natural tendency, what I was talking about earlier, if I have the natural tendency to hum the bass line when I'm listening to a song, so how do I capitalize on that strength? All right, so when I get back to my instrument, what I do now, what I was humming earlier, I go try to figure it out. I go trying to figure out not just how I'm the mechanical part of, okay, this is how I normally play. No. How you get better, all that little extra stuff. I was in a lesson the other day with the student, And I noticed this student was doing the same thing. They were singing a bass line, but when they went to their bass to play it, they played it really basic. But when they were singing it, they were singing all the little boom, 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 boom. It's like something they were singing all of that stuff, but when they started playing it, it was like boom, 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 boom. I was like, no. I said, dude, you were just singing it. Play what you just sang. That all that extra stuff, all that natural stuff you were doing, everything that was coming natural to you when you were hearing it, now apply that to the instrument. Well, I can't do that. It's because you're not doing it. You can't do it because you're not doing it. All right, so I know I just confused somebody with that. You can't do that because you're not doing it. All right, slow it down. So if I, what was that? So like if you were playing the rhythm, I'm gonna try to put it in context. The rhythm that I was playing, because I know some of y'all are getting sleepy, so I'm gonna play something. The rhythm that I was playing was, so I was like bum 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 bum. But what I sang was bum 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 bum. So if I can't play all of that, all I can play right now is I'm missing some stuff. So how do I get that other stuff in there? I got to slow it all the way down and figure out what it is I'm naturally doing. Because a lot of the stuff that you're looking for in terms of your sound, most of you guys, if you've been playing for a while, you're lacking motivation, you're lacking how to get to that next thing. I was listening to something this morning that was so good, and it reminded me when you're looking for, let's think about a farmer. When a farmer plants a seed, you get this big harvest based off a little small seed that you plant in the ground. But everything that seed needs to become either a tree or a fruitful plant, it's contained in that seed. Everything it needs is already inside of that seed. All that seed needs is the right environment and the right nurturing to produce what's already inside of it. So many of us are trying to find our sound, we're trying to find this and we're trying to find that. Everything you need in terms of what you're looking for out of your playing, you already have it in you. You just need the right environment. You just need the right nourishment, because if you put a seed if I put a seed right here on my desk, it's not going to produce anything. I don't care. It can sit here for 30 years and that seed won't produce anything. But the moment that I put that seed in the right environment, I put it in the ground, put a little bit of water on it, make sure it gets some sun. Before you know it, it starts to sprout. And what happens after that? It rains a little bit more. That rain, that practice, it rains a little bit more. That me taking out time to listen to other people and listen to get lessons and that kind of thing. All of that stuff is rain. So I get a little bit better every time I put a little bit of rain, a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of pain. Because guess what? That seed cracks open. So that natural hole that seed was in, it has to crack. It has to break open in order for that root to shoot out of there and go down to the ground. And going down into the ground makes it even worse sometimes, because nobody wants to go down. What we want to do is we want to, all right, I don't even want to bury the seed. Just think about the idea of burying the seed. You got to stick the seed in the dirt. That's that part we don't like about playing. You got to go down in the dirt. I don't want to go backwards to go up. I want you to show me the stuff. I want to pop on YouTube for 5 minutes and I want you to solve all my problems with one lesson. And I want to be as good as Victor Wooten after about 2 lessons. Make it happen. That's not the way it happens. You have to go down before you go up. That seed has to go down and it has to take root first, which means when those shoots come out of that seed, it goes down into the ground. It goes way down into the ground, depending on, and the bigger that thing is that seed is going to produce, that's going to determine how much further those roots go down into the ground. And so a lot of times it's going to go way down before it comes up. In your playing, you might feel like, man, I ain't going nowhere. And I've been putting in a lot of time. I've been putting in a lot of effort. I've been putting in a lot of years. And there hasn't been a payoff for this thing. But what, going to the good book, it said, you will reap in due season if you don't faint. I'm paraphrasing. But if you don't get tired in due season, you're going to see something come up. But you have to put that time in, you have to put that effort, you have to be planted, you have to grow the thing that you're already good at, you have to nourish that thing. I can already be a seed with everything already in me, but if I didn't come in here every day, get up, make myself do something, make myself create music, I already know. Over time, I figured out what it was I do well, but I still got to nourish that thing. I know I'm a good speaker. I know I'm a good musician, but I still got to nourish that thing. I still got to give it water. I still got to give it the nutrients that it needs. I got to place it in the right environment. That means all this negative stuff, I can't keep feeding myself the negative stuff. I can't go out here and pour uh, acid on my seed and expect for that seed to still produce. Matter of fact, I can't even pour that, I can't even put that seed in the ground and go out there and pour oil all over the ground and expect for that seed to still produce. It might produce something, but it might not be what I'm looking for. Because what you put into something, that's what's going to come out of it. You guys have seen that those pictures years ago when it flooded back here, Hurricane Katrina. I seen some of these farmers, they had plants, huge plants, because obviously it got a lot of water, so the ground was really, really fertile, but the water was contaminated. So just say, for instance, there was a watermelon that was huge, but when they cut it open, it was, they couldn't eat it. It was no good. It was huge. It grew. It produced something, but because what went into the ground was not good, it produced something that they didn't need. So you had this big, massive thing that was produced as a result of what was sown into the ground, but the things that went into the ground poisoned the seed. So when the seed produced the harvest, it didn't have anything. It didn't have anything that we could use. So if you know whatever that thing is you have, whatever you have to nourish it with the right stuff. And that means being disciplined. Discipline takes patience. It takes patience to nourish your gift. It takes patience for you to grow. It's not an overnight thing. It doesn't happen overnight. A lot of the things that I share with you guys freely, it costs me a lot. It costs me a lot of pain. It costs me a lot of embarrassment. It costs me a lot of time. It costs me a lot of things, but I get on here and I freely share these things, hoping to save people years of things that I didn't know, or years of things that I had to go through because I had to process. You might get the skill, you might learn the licks, you might learn the chops, but if you don't go through the process, it'll never deliver the way you want it to deliver. Because the delivery of what it is you're doing and the heart about what it is you're doing is going to determine everything. Like I said earlier in my analogy, you'll get the check for doing the job, but you'll never be fulfilled in what it is you're doing. And hopefully what I'm doing on this channel with sharing this information with you guys, hopefully I'm giving you stuff that as you move through your career as a musician, you don't become cynical. You don't become somebody who's just good, but there's no fulfillment. There's no enjoyment. There's no joy behind what you do. There's no purpose. There's no mission. You're just a person who is doing a job and you're getting paid at the end of that job. There's no fulfillment. You're that to me, those are the people who go to their job and they can't wait to get off work. And you just clocked in. You just got here. You already ready to go home? I was ready to go home when I got up this morning. So you know you're doing the wrong thing. If that's the way you feel about what it is you're doing, you know you're doing the wrong thing. If you're already ready to go and you just got there, you're doing the wrong thing. You're completely in the wrong thing. Now you can continue down that path and live comfortably with a check while internally you're miserable. Or you can seek out the thing that you know that's a strength for you, work on that strength and go through the trouble and the trial and the persecution or whatever else you want to call that you're going to experience while you work on that strength and develop that strength. Develop what that strength is. As you develop that strength, that's how you find your voice. That's how you find your sound. That's how you find your enjoyment. Because you'll find out your enjoyment won't come because you became this phenomenal bass player or this phenomenal musician or this phenomenal whatever it is you're into. The joy won't come from that. The joy will come from the journey and the process and the people that you helped as you were figuring this thing out. to be honest, the way I play now, even though in my mind, I got a long way to go. I'm still grinding. I'm still trying to get better. I'm still trying to grow at this thing because I know it's so much. But 10 years ago, I didn't see myself being here. 10 years ago. So what happens is that finish line continues to move. As you grow, that finish line, it continues to move. So there are people who have told me over the years, man, if I could just do what you do, I'll be happy. No, you wouldn't. Because when do you measure that you've gotten to that place that you were trying to get to? If you're a person who's continually hungry to get better, then once you get to that place that you thought you should get to, by the time you get there, you've already moved on. You've moved past Jermaine. You've moved on to another person. Like I'm trying to get to this level, or I'm trying to, and once you get really, really sweet with it, it moves off person and it becomes you that you're trying to catch. Because there's a version in your head, once you start really identifying this is the beauty about identifying your strength. After you start identifying your strength, there's a version of you in your mind that starts to show up, and you're constantly chasing that version of yourself, and you're the one that you're trying to catch. It's that other version that I can't explain it, but it's that other version of you that you're trying to catch, and you start looking at who you are going to be, and it won't let you alone. It won't let you go, and everything you do from that point on, after you start going for it, you start trying to get to that version of yourself that you saw. But because it's a thing, I wish I could really explain it, but I can't explain it. It's a version of yourself. When you put that time in, and when you put that effort in, you start saying stuff like, man, I can see myself doing that. I see myself doing this. I can hear myself playing that. Y'all all have had that moment. You probably didn't have it when you first started playing, but you all had that moment that you've heard somebody play something and you were like, I can do that. That's where it starts. And I don't mean the arrogant, I can do that. I'm talking about it's that realization of once you've accomplished one thing, you know that this next thing is possible. Once you accomplish that, you know that this next thing is possible. So it's almost like it's the Peter Pan effect where you're constantly chasing your shadow. That shadow of who you know you're supposed to be, you're constantly chasing that guy because like that's what I'm trying to get to. It can go for your playing, it can go for your health, it can go for if you're married, it can go for your marriage. If you're a father, or a mother, it can go as a parent. You're constantly chasing that better version of yourself because the more you work, I don't know how it happens, but the more you work on yourself, there's always that voice talking to you like, you can do it better. I've gotten to the point now when I record, I'm my own coach. I'm my own coach in here when I'm recording. And I told y'all this a few weeks ago. When I'm recording, I'm no, you got a better one in you. That ain't it. That ain't it. And you just know. You just know. Then that's it. It all happens as a result. And I got there's some other stuff that I wanted to share, but I'm sticking to this one thing today because I think it's so much packed into this one point. But discovering your strength, when you discover what that strength is, now you can apply this. This is just some ketchup. You can put it on your fries or your burger or whatever you want to put it. But I'm just giving it to you like it's coming to me. So once you identify what that strength is, now you can start applying every other area of your life. So my strength of wanting to help people, that's another strength of mine. Like I know the music, when it comes to music, that's creating music is one of my strengths, as I said earlier. But wanting to help people, that's another strength of mine. It's like just that natural urge to want to help people, that's a strength. And so now that pours into other areas, not just limited to music, because music is life. And I don't want to say that exclusively because people use that term loosely and people like music is life, man, music is life. When I'm saying music is life, what I mean by that, music mirrors life. Music mirrors life. Who you are in life Once you start figuring out how to merge those two worlds together to let the music that you create mirror who you really are, oh man, it's another thing. Because it comes across and people receive it. People feel it. People feel it when who you are as a person, who your character is. And what's so good about it, the people don't even have to know you to feel the intention behind what it is you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. They can feel the intention without even knowing it. The way this stood out to me, and I'm going to get back to the comments. I seen them earlier, but I'm going to come back to them. The way this stood out to me, I did a record a few years ago called Life. A lot of people have heard that record, but there's something when I was recording that record, a few of the songs, it's like, I'm going to be honest with you. Y'all know I love God. And a few of the songs I went in on in terms of just, I poured, I left it all in the red. Like in terms of recording, I left it all on the table. I was probably wiping snot and everything when I got through playing. So, I had no idea why. I just know what I felt when I was recording. And so I wanted to capture every piece of what I felt in that recording. And for me, it wasn't about the chops. It wasn't about how many notes I played wrong or right. I'm like, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm gonna pour my entire heart out into this song. Why? I don't know. I was just feeling it, and that's how I played it. So about a year or so later, after the song came out, my wife had a friend of hers who had recently lost her husband. Well, in the past couple of years, she had lost her husband. I had no idea she was even listening to my music. She stopped my wife one time, and she told her, well, she wasn't necessarily a close friend of my wife, but she stopped her and she told her, listen, I was listening to your husband's music, and it really got me through a dark time, because I kept thinking about, how I lost my husband. She was really young. Her husband died. They were newlyweds almost, you know what I'm saying? So she lost her husband, but she said listening to that song, for some reason, it got her through those days that she was feeling down. And I'm sitting here like, get this, there's no words to the song at all. There is no words to the song. So the power of, and I'm not gonna say the power of music because I know that's too generic. It's all about what's in your heart and what's behind what it is you're creating. It's the intent of the heart. That's what comes across. Anybody can play a song. Because if it was just the music, anybody can go in here and sing one of your favorite songs and you get moved by it. But you don't get moved by everybody singing your favorite song. It might be your favorite song, but it's only when this song is done with the same heart that it was created with, or the same intention that was placed behind this song, that you feel something like, for me, I'm very I don't know, sensitive. I ain't saying that in the non-manly way, but in terms of I feel stuff, and there are certain singers that I can hear, and when they're singing, I'm like, mm, they can sing, they can run, but there's nothing there. There's no substance there. I'm a person that seeks out substance. And because I am a person that seeks out substance, I also want to give substance. So if I can't feel anything from what it is you're doing, I'm not saying you don't have any substance, but in this particular thing that you're doing, maybe your heart isn't all the way in it. So for this person that heard my song, she felt the intention of my heart when I recorded the song, and I had no idea she was going to listen to it. I had no idea that a person was dealing with the loss of their husband when I was recording this song. I didn't think anything about that. All I knew that there was something pulling on me, and just being candid, I wanted to give God every ounce of energy that I had in gratitude for letting me be able to do what it is I do. That's what I put into that song. I poured out every single ounce of everything that I had. My limited ability, my insecurity, my fear about not being good, all of that stuff. Get that out of the way. I'm gonna give you every drop of every single thing that I have. And because I've done that, the results are in, and people felt it. People felt what was in that song, and they don't even know why they felt what was in that song. But it's just to me, It's just a testimony of when you put everything you have, you recognize what those strengths are, and you put everything that you have into everything that you do. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about doing everything as if you're doing it unto God. Like if I had an audience, even for you people who don't believe in God, that's your business. But just imagine, if you will, that you're standing before God and He tells you whatever your thing is that you do. He said, all right, show me what you can do. This is your one shot. And this is going to determine, at this moment, it's going to determine whether you live or die based on how well you perform, or how well, I don't want to say perform, but based on how well you do what this thing is you do, it's going to determine whether you live or die. What will you do in that moment? How will you do it? How will you pour it out? How will you give it in this particular moment? If everything is riding on, kind of like the game winning shot, everything is riding on how well I perform in this particular moment, what am I going to do? So I try to take that mindset when I'm trying to do it. Granted, nobody's perfect. I don't get it right every time. But especially when I'm creating music, I'm trying to take that mindset of, dude, this is my one shot to give this everything I got. It doesn't matter if it's a client that's paying me $5 or nothing, or I got a client that's paying me thousands of dollars to create. I'm trying to put every single thing that I have into this, as if I'm going to package this up and I'm going to hand it to God and say, this is what I did with the gift that you gave me, or with the strength that you gave me. This is what I took and did with this. This is what I'm offering back to you. Because when we think of it in that sense, it takes a lot of the technicalities. It takes a lot of those off of the table, because I'm thinking of it in the sense of my offering. Here's my offering. Here's what I want to give to you. I put all this time in. I put all this practice. I put all this effort in. So what do you have to show for it? And if at the end of the day, it's all about being able to show off or being able to show somebody how good you are, you're gonna be left feeling very, very empty. It's gonna be an empty feeling. You're not gonna get the full effect of what you could get from it had you gave it your all and had you really capitalized on what that strength was. So that's enough. That's enough talking. All right, let me go through some of these 200 comments that I missed earlier. Um, okay. Oh, sweet. It's not that many. What's up, bro? Top of the morning. Floyd, good morning to you if you're still here. Impulse Music, good morning to you. Tiffany, this is one of your strengths, creating music. I thought your jam last week was a song from one of your albums. Nah, that was just, I think that came off the top of the dome. All right, naturally for me, I identified the bass progression of 145 736. Got you. Andrew, Daryl says, in terms of bass playing, how do you determine your strength? Hopefully, I answered that question already. Do you base it on playing styles of music, or do you ask people for their constructive opinion of your strength? Um, Both, Daryl. If you're still here, I would say both, because it doesn't hurt to get constructive criticism from people, because sometimes you're too close to you to see, but sometimes you might need people, because everybody doesn't get it right away, but sometimes you might need people that know you really, really well. I'm talking about people not know the pretend you, people that know the real you. They sometimes, these people pick up on things that you naturally do, and sometimes you'll find out especially if you're married, sometimes you'll find out what your natural strengths are, because they might be a complaint. You always doing this, you're always doing that. So the things that you do that sometimes come across as a complaint, some of your greatest speakers in the world, the complaint was they talk too much. That was the complaint. But it was a natural thing for them to speak. They are natural talkers. They are natural warm people. So being able to sometimes have somebody in your corner that will be honest with you and tell you, oh man, not, and be clear about this, not having somebody that's trying to boost you up or boost your head up or anything like that, but having somebody that's legitimately being being honest. Ah, I'm sorry about that, guys. Who's legitimately willing to be honest with you. I didn't try to do that. Something happened. I tried to close something out and ended up opening it up. Sorry about that. But having somebody in your corner who's willing to legitimately be honest with you and tell you the truth about what they see your strengths are, that's very, very helpful. You can definitely use that. So like I don't ever get this many emails until I'm on live. All right, so let me go back. All right. Music for Jesus. Good morning to you. Thanks for sharing your wisdom point of view. Absolutely, no point. I feel that way about sharing music with people too. If I had a dime for every time I recommended Breezing by George Benson to a friend of mine, I'd be rich. Absolutely, Lucas. I know what you mean. Good morning, bro. Back on the road again. Back to practicing. All right, Andre. Good stuff. This is really great, Jermaine. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. He said, you're preaching. Nelson Paul, how do you still have time to practice with having a family? Great question, Nelson. All right, so let me, okay, I'll go ahead and answer your question. So, being able to practice with having a family, you'll find out that we waste, and this is not directed at you, this is directed at myself. I directed it myself. We waste more time than we have. Let me explain. You got to really look at, if you really start dissecting how many hours, like what are you doing? We all have the same amount of time in a day, 24 hours. What are we doing with these 24 hours? And if you work a job and your job working you to the bone, trust me, I'm not coming at you. I'm not trying to talk about you. But if there is a goal that you're trying to get to, if you deem something important, excuse me, you make time for it. If it's important to you, you make time for it. I'll say it again. If it's important to you, you make time for it. Some of us are really big sports fans, myself not included. I could care less about sports, but I do have things that I like. I like to watch. I like to see. I don't watch a lot of TV. A few years ago, I turned like my basic cable. I turned it off. There's like we have probably one or two TVs in my house. Period. Seriously, not a lot of TVs in my house. We don't watch a lot of TV. My wife and I do what I call quality time with my wife because that's important to me. It's important to her, so it's important to me. So at the end of our day, I might do like an Amazon Prime situation or something like that. And mostly everybody's moving to next Netflix anyway, or I might watch something on YouTube to pass the time. But as far as TV and watching the news and watching the sports update and watching ESPN and watching all these other things, or for me, Animal Planet, History Channel, all that kind of stuff, TBS, TNT, those shows that used to come on there years ago when I used to watch. All of that stuff I had to cut out because I realized how much time in my day was I giving away sitting in front of a TV. Like, I could easily sit there if it was a show I really like or a series of a show. They do 4 episodes back to back. I'm locked and loaded for all 4 of them. That's 2 hours of my time I just willfully gave away, being limited on time. I don't ever have time for anything, but I just willfully gave 2 hours of my time away to a TV program that will not pour anything back into me. It took my time away and I don't get anything back for it. I'm not any smarter because the show I'm watching, it didn't make me more intelligent. Like I'm watching something on TNT it's just a drama. It's just a like an action drama or something like that. And I'm entertained, but I'm not even further along in the things that I really want to do. So after I started examining how much am I doing that? Even me monitoring, I have a natural tendency, I know even now that I'm still working through, y'all pray for me. I have a natural tendency when I get frustrated, I start surfing on my phone. Like if I'm in here recording, I can be in here working, recording, doing something, and I notice it's a natural habit that I've developed. If like my computer starts taking too long to process or something like that, I grab my phone, I start scrolling on my phone. I don't mean anything by it, but before I know it, 15 minutes has went by. The computer been back, whatever the problem is, it's been over with. But I'm still on my phone going through my feed. I'm laughing. I'm having a good time. I done lost 15 minutes. Now, if I do that 4 times, 15 times 4, come on, guys. I done lost an hour. Close to. I done lost an hour. You see what I'm saying? So we find time for the things that we deem important. I think it's important to get on my phone at this moment because I'm bored. You know what I'm saying? I'm bored at this moment. So I think I have time to get on my phone and waste this time. Good morning to you, Brazil. So, you know, in terms of practicing, I think you have to be really intentional. Something that I started doing, me personally, and if you've been around for a while, y'all already know this. But I noticed for me, no problem, Nelson. For me, I was getting a cranky. Woo, I was getting a cranky. Like when my kid, me and my wife, we had our first child, and we navigated through that. And then by the time that second one came in, they playing. I was already kind of cranky. I noticed I was getting more and more cranky in the mornings because you get that first child, you ain't get no sleep. And you start noticing patterns about yourself. And I started picking up on this. Is probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, I'm getting more and more cranky. Like, why am I so mad in the morning? I'm mean in the mornings. And I noticed because I wouldn't have a chance to get my day started. My kids would just bust in the room, or I'm hearing them either fussing or whining. They want something. They're being kids. They want you to do something. They're calling on you. So my initial thing when I'm getting up in the morning, I'm waking up responding or reacting rather, reacting to what's going on. The baby's crying. Let me hurry up and go do this. Let's get here and get some, me and my wife got to hurry up and get some breakfast together. Let's go here. It's like I'm waking up and I'm in go mode. As soon as I get up, I don't have a time to set my day up to be able to respond to the day. I'm reacting the whole time. Or I wake up and I got a negative text on my phone. Somebody said something crazy. Or I got to do this. I got to find out I got to learn 15 songs this week because whatever. We got an artist coming in. I got to get ready. It's like all of these things I'm bombarded with as soon as I get up. So these things were taking my day. They were taking control of my day, and I wasn't in control of my day. So I didn't have enough time to me. And so for me, I justified spending time on TV or spending time on my phone with, well, this is the only time I get to myself. I ought, as much as us as men, as hard as I work and as much as I do, I ought to be allowed some time to sit down on the TV and kick my feet up and do this and do that. That's how we justify it. But I switched the game up on it. I started getting up earlier in the morning, not punishing myself, but actually rewarding myself. I started getting up earlier in the morning, and it's not because I'm trying to be better than anybody, anything like that. I knew I had to figure out a way to get a grip on my day, and I also reading and studying about the habits of successful people. They have a routine. But when you don't get up, you don't have command of your day. You don't have a routine. You're just reacting to your whole day, all throughout the day. Whatever happens, that's what's gonna happen. And musicians, we're notorious for this. We just get up and we react. Somebody called us for a gig. Sweet, I got a gig today, so let me learn these songs. But taking control of our time, taking control of our days, that's a whole other thing. So being able to get up, I started getting up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I think I still get up now at like 4:30 in the morning. I'm up at 4:30 and I got time to pray. I got time to read. I have time to exercise. If I want to practice, I have time to practice. So now I have time to set my day up and be in control of what's going on, not in complete control, obviously, but being in a position to better manage and to better respond to what happens in my day. So now when I see my kids in the morning, I greet my kids in the morning instead of waking up mad at my kids first thing in the morning. I'm greeting them, and now the hardest things that I needed to get done, like maybe practicing, I've already got it done. And my day ain't even got going good. So by the time I walk into my house, like I haven't seen my family this morning because I'm doing my thing. So once I get done and I greet my family, most of my harder stuff that I had to do, the stuff we don't want to do, like working out, like reading, like all that stuff, I've already got it done. So now I got a little bit more time to play with throughout the day, even though I don't want to waste that either. But I now have a little bit more time to play with throughout my day so I can do other things like spend time with my family. So hopefully that was a long answer, but hopefully that shines some light on some things that maybe you can consider. I don't know your situation; everybody's different. That's just what works for me, and that's kind of how I was able to Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Absolutely, I read that. But I was able to kind of change some things up in my life by making some shifts. All right, so okay, Dantazal, we appreciate you for this, man. I woke up in Arizona at 5 a.m. to catch. Wow, thank you for that. Daryl, thank you, Jermaine. I understand exactly what you mean. My pleasure. Cicello, I love how you said to make your playing an offering. I think that kind of attitude keeps you fired up and not growing weary because you're always doing it for God, not for yourself or gig. Absolutely. I totally agree. Uh, Renato, hello from Brazil. Okay, I already spoke to you. All right, Runzas, hi Jermaine, Bernard from Kenya. What's going on, man? So Michael says thanks for the advice. Absolutely, Michael. Good to see you on here this morning. Floyd said, okay, you said Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm going back through the comments, y'all. I'm sorry. I use my TV time to practice. Okay, I can dig it. I know people that have done that. Worked the time with my wife and the bass. So work the time with my wife and the bass. Okay. I mean, however it works, whatever works for you, you know that better than anybody. Whatever system works for you, and if you have a family, what works for you and your family. One of the things, though, and I'm closing up. I'm put my bass down so I can so I can end this. But one of the things, there's a great speaker that I heard. He said something that stood out to me that you have to be careful of, especially us musicians. You have to be careful. He said there was this man who had a job that he would, you know, goof around and play at the office, but when he came home, he would have to, kind of finish his work up at home. He would never really get anything done goofing around and playing, talking and having a good time. So he wouldn't finish his work up at the office. So he'd come home, and then when his kids wanted to spend time with him, he could never spend time with his kids at home because while he was at work, he was goofing around and playing. So at home, his son was like, Dad, why don't you ever have time for us? And while we're here, like when you're here at home, why don't you ever have time for us? It's like, well, I always got work to get done. It's like his wife kind of made the joke, well, if he would get more done at the office, which that's a whole nother conversation. But if he would get more done at the office, he would have more time to be at home. And so it's that idea, when you're at work, be at work. When you're at home, be at home. And I'm not saying this from the standpoint of somebody who got it all together, because I'm still working on this one. Because you can be there but not present. Saying this to my husbands, wives, fathers, whatever you are. When you're with someone, be present with someone. We're still working on these strings. I'm not off subject. I'm still. You tell me I'm off subject. I'm playing. But when you're present, be present. When you're there, be there. Because if people are expecting you to be there, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to be present in that moment. So if you're at work, get work done. If I'm over here, I'm trying to get stuff done. So when I shut down, because I do have a shutdown point of my day. I don't just keep doing music all like I was younger. I would play music until 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't do that anymore. I get up, I come over here, and I do what I'm supposed to do, and I do as much as I can do. And when I'm done, I'm done. I'm not picking up another instrument, any of that stuff, unless it's an absolute emergency or it's a client that they got to have something. Other than that, hey, I'll send it to you in the morning. I'll do it in the morning. But I have to be done when I'm done because my family deserves my attention. I can't give everybody else more of my attention. I'm like, no offense, but y'all don't care about me like that. You'll click right off of this video and go on to do something else. And I've been away from my family. So I have to make sure that the time that I'm devoting to certain things, when I'm devoting time to that thing, I'll be all the way in that thing. And when I'm devoting time to my family or something or somebody else that's important to me, I'm there with them. So my practice time for me is not necessarily the time that I'm spending with my wife, because she don't want me having my guitar in my hand. When I get to her, look, you need to put all that down. You need to this is my time now. She takes it personal. This is my time. She doesn't say that to me, but it's like that. And thank you, Daryl. I appreciate that for you giving, man. But she don't necessarily say that to me, but understanding that that's her time. This is the time that I've set aside for her. So if I've set this time aside for her, I need to be there. I need to be present in that moment and make sure that I'm giving her everything in this moment that she needs. I'm giving her everything that she needs in this moment of me, because I don't do that when I'm playing. If I'm over here practicing, I'm not going to get on the phone and start talking to somebody. If I'm over here and I'm supposed to be practicing, I'm going to devote that time. So be present where you're supposed to be present. You know what I'm saying? And that way, the other stuff, it'll work itself out. All right. So that's too much for today. So Tiffany says I gotta go. All right, Tiffany, thank you for being here. You said I agree, being present is so important. There's things to learn at work and at home. Absolutely. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. I hope and pray that you got something out of that. So good ain't good enough. And all of this stuff was around that subject of being, good ain't good enough. Just doing a little bit or just doing enough to get by, that's not gonna cut it. That's not gonna cut it. Make sure you maximize whatever it is, whatever your strength is. Make sure you dig in, really get into what that thing is that you say you are about, or that you say that this is your thing. Make sure you give everything that you have. You're not measuring how good you are against somebody else, but you're measuring, as I said earlier, you're measuring against that person that you're hoping to be. So don't settle for good when excellence is available. All right. So another comment. I love how every time I jump on your live, I walk out with so much more than a base knowledge or tips. Really appreciate the gems. Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. Thanks for those wise words, Jermaine. God bless you. God bless y'all as well. And thank y'all for hanging with me today. Thank y'all for watching. Be sure to browse my channel, check out some stuff, whatever you're needing help on. I'm sure you should be able to find a video there. If not, I'm probably working on it and I'm going to get it up soon. Be sure to check out the last video I uploaded this past week talking about using the minor pentatonic. That lesson is on my channel right now. So, all right, some more stuff coming. I have the last lesson, I think, of that series coming this week. So there will be another video dropping this weekend. So again, thank y'all, man. If you found this video helpful, please share it with somebody, because I'm sure it can help somebody else as well. And remember, identify your strengths and go for it. Give it every single thing you got. Leave it all on the floor. Don't don't hold nothing back. All right. So we'll see y'all on the next live, man. Thank y'all again. I'm out. God bless. Much love. Peace.